This is going to add up to more than 100%, but I'll get back to the house and I'll actually look at the numbers because this is just an estimate as I walk and talk.
Welcome to the Curious Cat Bookshop podcast, the podcast of the independent bookstore of Winsted, Connecticut, creating a literary community in Northwest Connecticut, bringing our local authors to the world and the world to our community in Northwest Connecticut.
Hello and welcome to the Curious Cat Bookshop podcast. Thought I'd try something new today. I am out on the Sue Grossman Still River Trail, and it's a 3.5 mile trail, at least this segment of it, between Torrington and Winsted, which is where the bookstore is. And what I'd love to start doing is showing you some of the cool things around town that if you're not from the area, you should know about if you come up to visit us here at the bookstore. Of course, you know how cool the bookstore is, but there are also some really great hiking trails. This is the most public one. This is the one, as you can see, there's a lot of traffic that runs past here, but it's the easiest trail as well. So it's a good place to start, especially if you just want to go for a quick walk. This is also my way of testing out some new technology that I'm getting really annoyed by, to be quite honest. I've got this new microphone that's supposed to hook up to my new gimbal that is supposed to make it easier to stabilize my video. I followed the directions for 2 hours over and over and over again, and the microphone just will not hook up to the gimbal the way they say it should. So I might end up just returning everything because I'm also really annoyed by how in selfie mode the gimbal loses me unless I'm doing some major contortions and I can't hold my arm out like this. It has to be super close up. It's supposed to track you as well. There's a little tripod foot that you can set it down on and it can track you, but the commands that it says that you can use with your hands don't work. That was supposed to have stopped recording. It's a pretty night out, but we have lost most of the light, so I'm not sure how long I will stay out here. The intention was to do a walk and talk to you about streams of income. I get a lot of people when I talk about how we are struggling because our sales have dropped by 50% versus last year in the last 3 months. August, September, and now October are all down significantly versus last year. Up until the end of July, we had been up 15% in sales. That's all sales, year over year. And then in August, dropped like a rock. And the number of people who are like, well, have you considered doing events? Have you considered doing memberships? Yes. We already do all those things that anyone could think of. Somebody is like, is there a library in town? Have you thought about asking the library to promote you? Yes, we have. So I thought I would get into a conversation about what bookstores have to do to survive today. And now that I'm laid off of my day job at Lee & Low, this is no longer a side gig that might eventually make money. It has to make money now to survive. Or I don't know whether we will survive into 2026. That's just the reality of running a bookstore right now. I've got plenty of ideas. The question is whether those ideas will work long enough and with enough ramp up that we will survive until we start making money and I can start paying myself. So I thought I would give you a rundown of what we do and how we do it. I've done this in a way before, but I've never broken it down in pie charts and by looking at the percentages that each of our streams of income bring in. For example, we're here on YouTube. We've now got almost 800 followers. The last I checked, I'm pretty sure we were about almost to 750 actually. And so that means that we are nearly at the 1,000 followers we need for monetization. And we are at just over 2,000 watch hours. So we still have quite a ways to go for watch hours to be able to become monetized. And once we become monetized, we will count that as another stream of income. The audio podcast form of this is not doing as well. I think we've just reached 750 downloads total, and you have to have 1,000 downloads a month to be able to get monetization on Buzzsprout, which is where we host our audio form of the podcast. So we're quite a ways away from being able to do any kind of monetization on the audio form of our podcast, except for the monetization that we put into our description, which is the books that we're selling, which we try and do every time we do interviews with authors, or anytime I'm doing a book recommendation. We ask that if you think that that looks like a great book to you, we hope that you'll buy it from us, because that's how we make our money, is by selling books. So right now, that piece of the pie is less than 1%. We've had a few people order books from us, and for that we're very grateful. We are happy to ship anywhere in the U.S. We're afraid we're not able to do any shipping outside the U.S. because of the state of the USPS, and the shipping would just be impossible. I'm going to turn around and go back to the car. I was hoping to make it down to those woods down there, but we're losing the light, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to use this footage. I'll probably finish this up with charts and graphs later. So we are definitely working on monetization for YouTube, but being very realistic about it. This is a way for us to reach beyond our local community and to build community a little bit further out. I have friends all over the country. I've lived in Seattle and Chicago and Utah and Boston and New York, and I'm forgetting something. But I've lived all over the country, and that means that I have friends all over the country who love to support us and who love to check in on the podcast and might occasionally buy a book that we recommend. And I'm hoping that this YouTube channel and podcast will help us to make more friends around the country and also sell more books. So that's one slice of the pie, but a very small one at this point. The biggest slice of the pie right now is in-store book sales, obviously. Our gross sales might equal anywhere from $6,000 to $30,000 in a month. $30,000 is the baseline goal, and that I'm not actually sure that we've actually hit 30,000 yet. We've come close in the holidays, but I don't think we've hit it yet. The original baseline goal in my business plan, based on real numbers that I had compared with bookstores who operate in other similar demographic size towns in the Northeast, I had estimated that our baseline in a bad month might be 20 or 30,000, and hopefully as high as 75,000 in the holidays. And even with that baseline, I didn't intend to pay myself for at least 3 to 5 years. That was just to be able to get us up and running and have everything that we needed and fully stock the store. Given that our baseline so far in the first 2 years of being open as a brick and mortar is closer to 8 to 12,000 a month, and in the holidays as high as 27 or 28,000, you can see the fact that we're only making a third on the regular means that seeing 15% growth earlier this year was a really good sign that we were on the right track, that we were reaching our audience. People were coming to know who we were. And then dropping like a rock in August and staying there at 50% down versus the previous year made me wonder, what are we doing wrong? Or is the economy just tanking? And from what I can tell that everybody is dealing with, it's mostly the economy. But normally, I would say that our in-store sales make up maybe 80 to 90% of our sales. And then another 10% is our website sales. And those might come from friends around the country. Those might come from people who have ordered something online just because they saw us and like us, or an author might mention us as a place that people can pre-order a book. And then maybe 1%, this is going to add up to more than 100%, but I'll get back to the house and I'll actually look at the numbers, because this is just an estimate as I walk and talk. But these are sporadic numbers, and that would be school book fairs and pop-ups. We don't do many of them anymore. We started as a pop-up, But we did a pop-up last weekend at Whiting Mills, and that was probably maybe 5% of our month, but of our year, it's maybe 1% or less. And then the school book fairs that we're doing less of, because the thing about school book fairs is that you want to give a portion to the school, but the numbers don't add up. When you count in the physical stress, it takes me 3 days now physically to recover from carrying all those boxes of books to the school, unpacking them, setting them up, packing them back up again by myself, loading them back into a rented van. The cost of renting the van this time, something went wrong with the U-Haul, and they charged me for 2 days of rental, even though I only rented it for one afternoon. And the lady was rushing me at the store, and I think they charged me extra for not taking pictures, but my phone had died, and she kept telling me, well, you got to take the pictures. You got to do it now. And then I closed up the truck and realized that there were supposed to be more pictures. And I was just like, I need to go home because I'm in such severe pain. And the rushing me did not help with my state of mind. So I'm rethinking whether we're going to do that many more school book fairs when there are no parent volunteers to help us with the loading and unloading in particular, and the running of the book fair. Because when you count all the time that I put into loading up the books on one end, and the cost of employees to help with that, because even with the help of my employees, we all were exhausted because we did 2 events in one weekend this week. Even with the help of 2 employees, you either have to pay for that time or you have to do it yourself and wear yourself out. And then when you're giving 20% away to the school, that means that what you have left after paying 60 to 54% to Ingram or to the publisher, that leaves us with a 20-ish% chunk ourselves. And when you're looking at the actual numbers and breaking it down by the number of hours, it comes out to about $7 or $8 an hour without counting in the cost of renting a van. So it's definitely not the number of people who are like, well, have you thought of? Have you thought of? Yeah, we've done a lot of those things. But when you run the numbers, it becomes harder to justify doing it out of any other reason than community connectedness as a volunteer operation. I don't pay myself out of school book fairs. I don't pay myself at all at the moment, but school book fairs, if I were doing a school book fair every week for 52 weeks, I'd be losing money. I wouldn't be making money. Certainly wouldn't be paying my mortgage with it. So these are the considerations that you have to take into account when you're running a bookstore. Right now, we're not profitable. And you shouldn't be expected to be profitable in the second year of running any new business. But you have to start thinking about, how do I pay myself? And that's the dilemma I'm dealing with right now, is how do I pay myself anything at all? But it's getting dark, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at these results and probably throw them all out and probably tape in my office. But either way, I will see you on the other side, whether I use this footage or not, and we'll have more detailed numbers on the other end.